Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to one of Tyler's tech tutorials. And tonight we're just going to go over some basic system administrator tasks and responsibilities. So one of the main responsibilities a sysadmin is going to oversee or administer is Windows Server Active Directory domain services. That is the primary role installed on an enterprise network. So you go to sit down at a computer, you log in with a username provided by human resources, and you're going to log in with said username and credentials, and you're going to have access to a number of applications that are provided to you from that computer. Now those applications are actually pushed out from a server that's Active Directory. Your account is included in Active Directory. So when your account is initially built, it is created within the Active Directory objects, users, and computers. So your first name, last name, email, permissions, what files you should have access to, what applications you should be using, what printers you're going to be able to use. I could keep going. The biggest thing nowadays, though, is the cloud. So with Active Directory domain services, it's very common to integrate that Active Directory with Office 365. That is a cloud-based platform running software as a service, and it's provided to your users upon subscription of an Office 365 license. So you have a tenant that you would set up, and prior to integrating that on-premises domain controller with that tenant, so you can synchronize all of your user accounts with Office 365. So you're going back and forth between on-premises and the cloud. It sounds very complex, yes, I know, but it's actually not. So here we have I already have Active Directory domain services installed on this server. Now, it's also customary to install DNS and DHCP on your domain controller. You don't want to install much more than that. You want to install those essential roles. I don't have DHCP installed yet, and what that would do is that would dynamically assign an IP address to each computer as it's joined to your domain. So here we have ADDS, that stands for Active Directory Domain Services. And if I want to go up here to Tools, Users and Computers, I'm going to select that. I already have it open. So here is my domain name. It's contoso.com. I have a bunch of dummy accounts. All right, so we have Elisa Lawyer. And in her profile, we're going to have her job title, username, login, email, phone number, description, office, all the basic information associated with that account. Now, when I created all these accounts with one PowerShell script, which is one of the many advantages of PowerShell and automation. When I'm mentioning PowerShell, the best comparison I could think of is Bash and the Bash shell within Linux. So I have a Linux machine that I want to write a script, and I want to automate various tasks within that server. I'm going to write a script. Why not? Obviously, I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Why would I want to do that when I could automate? So let's say I wanted to constantly look for the IP address and DNS records of a website. All right, so in here I have a script called data center info. And what that's going to do first, when I execute this script, it's going to ask me, what domain names did you provide? So let's actually see it in action. It kicked back an error because I did not provide a domain name. That is good error checking in this script because I did not provide a parameter. Upon execution, it will not work. So when I run this script, I'm going to include two domain names. I'm going to do Fox and CNN. And then it's going to retrieve the IP address, the public IP address, and DNS records associated with each domain. So what it's going to do is it's going to go out and search for that for each address, and it's going to find if it's available on the public domain. It's going to display each record, and here what I have is basic text formatting. I want to cut and format the text. I want to parse the text in a way that's going to be presentable to the average user. So who is a domain name lookup. And then I'm going to echo said details in the terminal. So to see it in action, let's do Google and then fox.com. Here we go. So we have the public IP address, domain name, and these records we're retrieving records that are currently registered with ICANN. So that is the main idea, is to demonstrate the ability of scripting and automation. So in Windows PowerShell, I created all these users with one script. I don't know if I still have it saved on here. It might have been on the first domain controller I built. Yeah. There we go. So here's a script called create user accounts. And this is what I used to create all the users and add them to this domain. And what it did was it went in and retrieved user object information and details from a spreadsheet called AD users. And it automatically populated my Active Directory forest with all the user information. So I don't have to go in and create a bunch of users for this lab. It's already been done. Pretty cool. So I have a user that's already had an account set up and assigned an Office 365 license. So let's look for Chris. Chris is the administrator, I believe. So I had to update Chris's profile with, let's see. Okay, so maybe I didn't have to update. Very cool. All right, so let's go out and actually look at the let's actually log in as Chris. So let's say I needed to change Chris's password. All right, I go to reset. Okay, now I go to log in a computer on the network with that password, and it will log them in. So a lot of times people forget their passwords. They call up and say, hey, can you reset my password, or can you submit a ticket? Then we can reset it and reassign it to them. A lot of times we'll set it to change, so when they log in, they'll be able to change it back to whatever they want to. Now, I have the ability to enforce security policies and encryption from this server, which is really nice. You can enforce password policies, so length of password, use of characters and special characters, numbers. Like, let's say I wanted all my users to have at least 10 or more characters in their password. You know, they would not like it, but nowadays you have to have password security policies. That is essential to surviving our cyber crusade. So I reset that password. Okay. Let's open up PowerShell. Now, how long is it going to take for that password to set in Office 365? This is the most challenging part of, if you're not familiar with synchronization. Office 365, your domain controller is set to synchronize with your Office 365 tenant in intervals. It could be every 15 minutes, or you can set the time, and usually you don't have to. But in this case, let's say this user is a high-level executive, and they need to have direct access to their account. So, when they log into the computer, it's going to work great. But when they go to access their email, their SharePoint services, or OneDrive, that password might not have been synchronized yet. So we're going to do a hard sync to make sure it does. Okay, so password hash sync is enabled. That's good. So to actually start a hard sync, policy type is going to be Delta, because we just want partial sync to update any recent changes made within each object on premise. So it should return a success. Very good. Let's get the AD sync schedule. It's going to tell us when it synchronizes. It's every 30 minutes. Okay, and that's fine. All right, so let's get to our login page for Office 365. All right, this is not Bill, so we're going to switch to a different account, and this account is going to be Chris J. And let's see if the password I just changed it to is actually going to work. It won't surprise me if it doesn't. Hey, look at that, it does. That's awesome. Cool. No, we don't want to save it. Okay, so Chris as an admin, that's what we want. But here it is, Office 365. You notice how I'm accessing that account that's currently stored on premises within Windows Server Active Directory domain services. But that on premises, that server that's installed on premises, is currently being synchronized with our Office 365 tenant in the cloud. So let's open up his email. All right, so we're still signed in as Bill Tyler. So we're going to sign him out. Now let's see if we can go back. There we go. So we want to use Chris, and we're going to type in the password. Now normally if you're on your computer, you don't have to do this all at once because you're already logged into your account, and it's going to log you in as you go to each Office 365 application. Very good. So what happens if the server on premises was shut off? Does that mean Office 365 is going to stop working? No. We will get notifications telling us that synchronization is currently offline. And obviously it needs to be fixed ASAP. But let's go to the admin center real quick. And what I have here is Azure Active Directory. And here are all the user accounts that are currently being synchronized. So this is very beneficial to anyone that's working remotely. You can, obviously, most people are going to be connecting to the workplace with a VPN, but with Office 365, it gives you the ability to access your corporate resources from the browser itself. If you have your own device and you've been authorized to access your applications on the device or use email, then as long as that device meets corporate compliance standards and is registered with your IT department, then you can use your applications remotely. And that's what's very beneficial about it. So we also have the Teams app on here. Let's go to the Teams real quick. Now I also have the desktop apps installed. We'll go over those another time. We're going to use the web app instead. No, we're not going to turn on notifications just yet. Let's check out SharePoint real quick. These are all the applications that are included with your Office 365 subscription. Each, depending on what subscription you've been assigned, you could have another subscription for enterprise applications. There's so many different Office 365 subscriptions in itself, and I can't explain all of them just in this video. Like Azure AD Premium Security Services, mobile device and enterprise mobility, Teams management, enterprise rollout. I could just keep going on, and which I am going on and on, so I apologize. Right, my billing, purchase services. Here's the licensing options available within each Office 365 tenant. You can pay month to month, yearly, annually. Anyway, all right, so let's go back to the domain controller that we were building. It's a virtual machine running in Hyper-V. On the host machine, we built a desktop. We took a desktop tower and rebuilt it as a host machine. It's a server that's going to be running virtual machines. So here, let's give it a password. And that's it. We're going to pick up here soon.